Hi, crafties, and welcome to Weekend Crafting Adventures. I'm Kim. And whether this is your first time listening to my podcast or you have listened to one of the other episodes of one of my other crafting adventures, I just want to say thank you for checking out my podcast and hanging in there with me if you have listened to more than one as I kind of get my footing in the podcast world, learning how to just present these crafting projects in a fun and interesting way as I'm experiencing them as I do them. So this week's crafting project, I'm calling my Cricut team building teacher apron project. And let me tell you a little bit about the inspiration behind this crafting project. As a preschool special educator, I have the opportunity to work in lots of different classrooms with lots of different teams and children. And it is an amazing job. I love my job, but I am on the move. And one of the things that I love to have is a teaching apron. During the pandemic, I made fanny packs for my team, and we wore them so we could keep everything right there on our waist. We didn't have to bring a bag into the classroom. We could just put everything into the little fanny pack, car keys, things like that, and go in and out of classrooms. Well, now that we're past that time in our teaching lives, I wanted to get back to a teaching apron. Yes, an apron. These are the kinds of aprons that actually are like what wait staff wear. So the black apron that has 3 pockets right across the front, and it ties around your waist. And the reason I love these aprons as a teacher is that I am on the go and I love to carry a sticky pad, pencil, pen. I love to carry little fidget toys and maybe snacks and things like that that I might be using when I'm working with my preschool students in the classroom. And so I thought it would be really fun to do a team building activity with my 2 teammates and create some really fun and unique and personalized teaching aprons. So I packed up my Cricut Maker and my mini heat press and brought it to work, and the 3 of us on my team created some really fun teacher aprons. One other inspiration behind this crafting project, and I'll explain a little more about this in the experience of doing this crafting project, but really this crafting project is taking place at 2 different times. One was back in the fall where I originally brought my Cricut down to work and worked with my team to create these teacher aprons with fun designs on the front. And the other follow-up is now me making more aprons at home. And the reason that I am continuing to make these aprons, and I kind of thought about bringing this craft project to share with you all, is that like many other school districts and schools, we are extremely short-staffed and have been for really the last 2.5 years. On my team. And every week, I have amazing coworkers that volunteer to help support some of the most impacted children that I provide support to with my team. And these coworkers, week after week, generously volunteer their time to come and work with me and my team with our kids. And our kids are amazing. And I know that they're really falling in love with working with the kids in my program. But anyway, I really feel like creating these aprons for those coworkers that continue to volunteer their time week after week is just such an awesome way to show some appreciation. So the apron that I made here today was actually for a coworker, Kate, who is jumping right in every week and excited to learn new skills and new way of doing things with my team. And so that is one of the other inspirations behind this project. For the resources for this project, really the biggest resource was that I got the SVG files, cut files for this project from Etsy. I really wanted them to represent our preschool, our love of preschool, and some of the things that we love the most about preschool. And I couldn't find the exact cut files in Cricut Design Space for this project, so I did purchase them from Etsy. I purchased a fidget pack SVG files. We use a lot of fidget toys with the children that I work with. And so one of the coolest SVG files that I found was of Poppet toys. Those little rubber toys, you see them all over the place, but they just kind of pop in and out. And so when I saw that SVG bundle, I could not help myself. I had to purchase it to put some of those images on our aprons. And the other SVG file that I did purchase from Etsy was the saying that we put on the middle pocket of the apron that says, helping small hands do big things. And that was kind of the theme that we chose, with some little handprints on the inside of that. So really, that was the biggest resource for this project. In terms of materials, they will all be listed on the blog post, but I just want to highlight a few for this project. Some puff heat transfer vinyl, regular heat transfer vinyl, and I use a Cricut Easy heat press. And that heat press is really important. I'll tell you a little bit more about why having a heat press that has an exact temperature on it was so important for this project when I get to the experience. But also the black aprons. Our team chose black wait staff aprons. I did purchase them on Amazon. They are awesome. They have 3 large pockets across the front, enough room for absolutely everything that as a teacher I need when I am running around and supporting my kiddos. So let me get into the experience of this project. Like I said before, this is kind of a different project, because the original time that I worked on these aprons as a team building activity was back in the fall. And now I've kind of come back to it to do some more aprons for those coworkers and teachers that are helping because we're so short-staffed. So the team building experience was really fun. I packed up my Cricut and I did bring my mini heat press and brought that to work with all the materials we needed to create these aprons. And it was really fun to work with my coworkers on choosing the color colors that we were going to use. We were all going to have the same center pocket and saying, which is helping small hands do big things with little handprints in the middle. So that was going to be the common thread across all of the aprons. And then the other common thread was we were going to put a heart onto one of the pockets on one of the side, just because we just have a lot of love in preschool for our kiddos and for each other. And that heart was what we used the puff vinyl for. And if you haven't tried puff vinyl, I highly recommend it. It is really fun. And then on the other pocket, we each chose a fidget toy SVG cut file to put onto the apron. And the three of us all chose a unicorn pop fidget with rainbow colors. So that was really one of the most challenging parts of this project, was lining up and layering that rainbow unicorn poppet SVG, but it just is adorable. So some of the things that was really fun for me, being that I have used my Cricut before, was that both of my coworkers at the time did not have Cricut machines. So it was really their first experience with looking at the designs and having Cricut cut them out of the vinyl, and then the weeding process, which I think everybody found pretty enjoyable, which was surprising, I think. But I love weeding when it is a fun material to weed, and I think they also enjoyed it. We had a lot of fun, just like I said, choosing the different colors that we wanted on each of our aprons. We each chose a different color of puff vinyl for the heart. And so showing them that puff vinyl was really cool. But here's one of the things that I learned about puff vinyl. I had used it one time before when I was making my Walt Disney World t-shirts, and I was using my Cricut Easy Press for that. But I took my mini heat press down to work with me. Well, the mini heat press is awesome, but it does not have an exact temperature gauge on it, meaning you can set it to low, medium, and high, but I'm not exactly sure what those exact temperatures are. They're kind of a range when you look at the Cricut heat temperature guide for the mini press. And so when I come back to doing an apron and making it for my coworker Kate, this time around, I decided to use the Easy Press, which is the 9x12, I believe, size. It's bigger and it has a temperature gauge on it and a timer. So you can set the exact temperature and the exact time. And when I went back and looked at this particular puff vinyl, it was very specific that you needed to set the heat press you're using at 285. And so when we used the mini heat press down at work, what we found was we kind of were struggling to determine the right temperature and the right amount of time for the puff vinyl. So how my puff vinyl looks on my apron and how the puff vinyl looks on Kate's apron are two different things. And I believe the reason why Kate's looks so much better is because I had the exact temperature for the exact time for that particular puff vinyl. So that is definitely something to keep an eye out for when you're using puff vinyl. One of the other things that I learned in this project, which I'm not sure I really realized before. It's again with the puff vinyl, and it could just be the brand of puff vinyl that I used for this project, but typically when you are cutting heat transfer vinyl on the cutting machine, you put the shiny side down, and then Cricut cuts it out the shape or the design. With the puff vinyl, the directions clearly state that you need to have your cutting machine cut that puff vinyl shiny side up. So it just really made me stop and think that something to highlight is that always check the directions for the specific kind of vinyl that you're using. Most of them are really straightforward and tend to have the same directions around how to cut them, how to weed them, but this particular vinyl did not. So it just made me think, whenever I'm using a vinyl that is not straight heat transfer vinyl, whether it's puff or glitter or color changing, to make sure I check that particular brand's instructions. So Kate's apron is done and it's beautiful. It has a different poppet toy fidget. It is just a round poppet on hers. And I feel like it's going to be kind of fun as I one by one create these aprons for all of my coworkers that have been volunteering their time in my classroom on Fridays to put a little bit of a unique and different fidget toy on the apron. So that is one of the ways that I'm personalizing it, along with the different color heat transfer vinyl and things like that. But this is a pretty straightforward project. I really have learned that weeding heat transfer vinyl for me is the easiest vinyl to weed. It just works better for me. So that whole process went well. My Cricut cut the vinyl beautifully. My easy heat press attached the vinyl really well. Again, I think I mentioned it earlier. The most challenging part was layering the vinyl onto the different rainbow layer colors for those poppet fidget toys that I was putting on the apron. So let me tell you about my crafting keepers for this episode. My first crafting keeper is definitely going to be my Cricut Easy Press. I love this press, this heat press. I use it for putting heat transfer vinyl on lots of different materials. In this project, it was the aprons. I've put it on wood with my Easy Press, t-shirts, of course. But the reason I love it so much and why it's a crafting keeper for this particular project was that when I was using the puff vinyl, I got a great result because I was able to set my Easy Press specifically at 285 for 15 seconds. There was no guessing, and the puff vinyl came out beautiful. So that Easy Press is my first crafting keeper, and my second crafting keeper is the puff vinyl. Every time I use puff vinyl, I just kind of chuckle and I love it. It's just such a fun texture and material, and I'm all about different textures and different ways of just doing things in general. So this puff vinyl, I've used it on t-shirts, and I will continue to find different ways to bring it into the crafting projects that I'm doing. My Satiscraft rating for this project is a 5. I just had fun. I had fun when I did my team building activity with my teammates at the beginning of the year, creating these aprons for the first time. And once again, I really had fun making Kate's apron today. So anytime I'm doing a crafting project more than one time and I really enjoy it, it's a 5, and this definitely is. It's fun, it's functional. I can wear it at work and have all of my teacher necessities with me as I'm working with my kids. So I hope that this inspires you to create some fun aprons or use some puff vinyl in a crafting project and get your Cricut off the shelf and get crafty. Until our next adventure, take care.
That's all for this episode of Weekend Crafting Adventures. Now go get that Cricut machine off the shelf and get crafty. For more information on this crafting project, interesting tips, tricks, and techniques, visit wcapodcast.com. Until next time, when we embark on another adventure.